It's another week of the Byron Show at BetSperts Golf for the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson. This is our event. I've done a show with Kenny Ron where we said it was our event because of the Byron and the Asians, and I think this is more so our event than anybody else's. Right? How are you doing on this fine Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Not as good as you. I know you've been dodging tornadoes there in the Great Plains. Reminds me of my days back in Texas where that was a common occurrence. But yeah, we're kind of trudging along here towards the PGA Championship here in a couple of weeks. The Zurich last week, kind of minimal drama.
Mhm.
And this week we get like a bland, easy scoring course with a weak field. And so, yeah, this is the definition of a wide open putting contest. Throw in wet conditions all week, it looks like, and it's going to be a dart throwing birdie fest.
Absolutely. It's one of the weird tournaments on the schedule, Ron, though, that the birdies are coming from 175 and out, but a
Yep.
lot of these greens are contoured in a way that the balls will funnel close to the holes, blah, 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 all that jazz. So make sure you can hit your long irons, make sure you can score on easy courses, make sure you can roll in those birdie putts. We don't have any Scotty Scheffler on, so it's kind of all up for grabs. Will Zalatoris withdrew with a back flare up. No good there for him. But we've got Jordan Spieth, Jason Day sitting in the top of the range. Yeah, let's just add a few guys into the 9-5s. Siwoo Kim, Sungjae Im, Adam Scott, and Alex Noren all kind of, I'd now clump them all into the same bucket. Jordan Spieth has not been playing very well lately, and Jason Day himself has, been playing okay, but not to his standards that we've come to know. But he's the defending champ. Where are you going in this 9-5 and up range?
Yeah, so a key thing for me, and pretty much kind of one of the main things I'm looking at is, typically these easy scoring courses that pose very little threat off the tee. Like there's no hazards here that are going to threaten golfers. It is driver heavy. And so they're basically transformed into target practice on approach followed by a putting contest. And so, that's definitely one of the key things I'm looking for, that combination of approach and putting. And if you look at the top four on the board here, each of these first four, looking at Spieth, Day, Siwoo, and Sungjae Im, each of them have major weaknesses in one of those, either approach or putting. Spieth is 66th and Day is 94th in approach. And then you look, Siwoo he's 91st in putting. And then Sungjae is 67th in approach and 64th in putting. And so, out of those four, Siwoo Kim is my favorite just because of I think his scoring potential is higher. But honestly, I'm going to be dropping down in the majority of my lineups to this mid 9K range. And so, yeah, I will highlight Adam Scott here at 9.6. He finished first in my model this week. He's third best in this entire field when you combine recent approach and putting. He's the best player in the field if you go back and extend it over the last 12 months. I think he's got an excellent chance to kind of break his win drought this week. He can make putts from everywhere. Doesn't really have a weakness in his game at the moment. And what put me over the edge with him this week is seeing that he ranks 7th best in this field in Birdie Fest. And then I'll just real quick on Alex Noren. This could be another. There's a lot of guys like this, like Noren this week, who haven't won on the tour yet, and this could be his breakout week. And so, certainly he's a good course fit when you combine his recent iron play and his putting skills. And he's another guy who also, surprisingly, I think people think of him like he really thrives, tough scoring conditions, but he actually plays his best in weaker fields. He ranks 3rd for me, and he's 12th in Birdie Fest. And so I think, Scott and Noren are going to be my main two here in this upper range.
Yeah. I think I've bet both of them, Alex Noren and Adam Scott, for top 20s. Adam also grades out number 1 for me in my model, also number 1 on easy scoring conditions. The guy makes birdies like crazy. His putting is phenomenal. Alex Noren is probably the guy I won't be playing in this range, along with Siwoo Kim. I've bet also Siwoo for a top 30. Siwoo Kim is going to come in, Ron, at some ridiculous ownership this week. And the thing is, I don't even know necessarily where it's coming from. He's going to be the highest guy in the slate, and he's sitting here with a 8% top 5 rate in this field. That's not okay for me. I'm not going to be investing in a guy where half my lineups have to be Siwoo Kim to get 2x on the field, and he's barely ever finished inside the top 5, So I'll bet him for a top 30, get my exposure there, and off we go. I'll be loading up on Jordan Spieth and Adam Scott along with some Sungjae Im. By the way, Sungjae is grading out really nicely for me, and he's looking like a nice leverage option in this 9K range where a lot of this ownership is going to accumulate. And I think he's a solid pivot option. I'm seeing him right now at like 12%. That's to me very nice. And think about TPC Sumlin. He's won the Shriners, and I think this is a course that can translate, which is why I'll be playing Tom Kim this week, because TPC Summerlin is where Tom Kim has won 2 of his 3 PGA Tour championships. Not PGA Tour champ, just PGA Tour events. And I'll be going to him too, because it seems like the putt has figured itself out. We've seen some spike potential in the last 3 tournaments. So lots to love from him. And then I'll just throw in Benny on as well, because he's my boy. So I'll be playing those guys strictly. I'm not playing too many lineups this week. So that's pretty much my play pool north of 9.
Yeah, I'm agree with you on Tom Kim. I'm definitely loading up, since I am skipping that top range completely. I just cannot trust, like Jordan Spieth has won twice in the last 7 years. The wrist thing, who knows when that's going to flare up again. So I'm just skipping down here. I feel much safer down in this range, and I think there's some good upside. I mean, you look at Steven Yeager at 9-2. The only golfer to beat Scotty Scheffler. Full of confidence. He's proven that he can score low when he needs to. Was 11th here last year. Tom Hoagie for me, second in my model this week. Again, I think he's a good value. Like, all you need is a top 10 at this price at 9.1. And again, I looked at last 3 months. I combine approach and putting. He's the best player in this field by a mile, gaining 2 strokes every round over the last 3 months on average. Ben Martin came in second. He's at 1.12. So, Hoagie's inconsistency will drive you crazy at times, but his upside, I think, is immense. And he is on the best putting stretch of his career right now, gaining in 9 of his last 10 rounds, or 9 of his last 10 tournaments. And in 5 of those tournaments, he's gaining 2+ strokes per round. So I think you combine those together. And then Tom Kim, agree with you completely. When you combine weak field events plus easy scoring birdie fest, I call them weak easies. And so Tom Kim thrives in weak easies. Like you said, he's won 3 shootouts. Like, we're talking 20 under or more. And so, 6th in approach, 30th in putting. Yeah, I'm going to be really heavy on this whole 9.5 range all the way down to Tom Kim here at 9.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of balance builds. So if you feel frisky, tap into that upper range, because that's where it's going to be different this week. The pricing seems that way. In the 8s, Ron, I'll be looking at a Jake Knapp and Maverick McNeely with a little bit of Adam Schenk in the mix there. Those will be my 3 guys for the 8s. I'm assuming you'll be leaning into a bit of Adam Schenk as well, maybe some Thomas Dietrich. I don't know how much Jake Knapp you're in the mood for at the Byron Nelson CJ Cup.
Yeah, you know me too well. Dietrich is a guy who I think this week he's got plus upside to win. He's got 3 top 10s this year. I know he has a reputation as being a guy who kind of collapses on the weekend, but he's kind of steadied that ship a little bit. I think I think a lot of people are looking at the bomber approach this week. I'm focusing a little bit more on approach and putting, but he definitely has the length off the tee. He's a birdie machine when he gets hot with the flat stick. He's gained 5 strokes putting in 3 of his last 4. That definitely comes into play this week. Adam Schenk, I got an outright on him at 55-1. I think he's all the way down to like 35 right now. He's another guy trending toward his first tour win. 12th at the Masters, 19th at the Players, another birdie machine. And yeah, I'm with you on Jake Knapp this week. I think I don't know what you're seeing him. I'm seeing him at around 5%. And if he's that low, that might be the leverage play of the week. He struggled mightily if you look at his last 5 events. But he just won on a similar long, easy scoring track in Mexico just a couple months ago. And he's been mostly positive. If you look at approach and putting, especially his long irons have kind of remained elite. And so at that ownership, I'm predicting the vibes are going to be back this week with him on another Birdie Fest course where, his recent off the tee and around the green issues, I don't think, they're just not going to matter as much this week.
Yeah. And Jake Knapp, Jake Knapp's timeline the last 2 years was bouncer, Corn Ferry Tour, win the Mexico Open. Now you're playing the Cognizant with Rory and playing in the Masters. His life has just completely gone from nothing to everything. And now he finally gets a tournament that's not necessarily the graduation in expertise and skill level that he's kind of gone to after winning Mexico. He's going to go back to a much Corn Ferry Tour-esque, venue, which I think he should thrive on a lot. And kind of looks like he's had some time to relax and just the poor guy's life has gone, to the moon. Poor guy's life, the guy's winning on the PGA Tour. But you know what I'm saying. Maverick McNeely is the last guy I'll mention before we dive into the sevens. We're in a bit of an expedited groove this afternoon, Ron. But speaking about expeditionary grooves, Ryan Fox. Give me your take on him. I think I'm in on him this week because him and Higo both are two dudes that have really solid baselines. Higo actually grades out a little bit better than Fox, though. But Fox has got more DP Tour wins than he does top 30s on the PGA Tour this year. DP Tour wins in the last 2 years than he has top 30s. Wow, I absolutely butchered that. Kind of like what Ryan Fox has done on his PGA Tour debut this year. So I think he's going to bounce back after a good performance at the Zurich last week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so speaking of Ryan Fox, I just dropped him in our fantasy league, and I play you this week. And I saw that Peter Quest and Seamus Power were sitting there in the free agent list, and so I am done with Ryan Fox officially, at least for the moment. But yeah, I'm playing a lot of Seamus Power this week at 7-9. He's completely turned his game around. He's one of my core plays this week. He's coming off the 12th at the RBC. He's got 3 top 20s, actually 3 top 17s at this course. And he ranks first in this entire field in weak field events and 5th in Birdie Fest. And so all on him this week. I think Ben Griffin, for me, 7-7. He's 3rd in easy courses. He's 5th best in long courses. Just recently made a ball switch. We're going to have some windy conditions this week, it looks like, on a couple days. So he's another guy that plays really well in the wind. And then Peter Quest, he's getting a lot of love here. I couldn't believe it. I had to double check, but I agree with that because he ranks 11th overall in my model. His last 3 tour events, he's finished 9th, 10th, and 13th. He can bomb it off the tee, and he consistently spikes on the greens. And I love Quest at 7-5. And then there's just, you can go down this range. And if I'm going to play 3 9K guys, which is I'm going to try to do, I think you could get down into this 7K range. And you got, Justin Lauer sitting here, who's been a birdie maker. Excellent mid-range putter who can steal strokes on the greens, has the approach play to combine it with that. Andrew Novak at 7-4. I mean, this guy is still getting no respect. 3 top 10s this year, 5th best in approach. If you look over the last 3 months, he's the 7th best player in this field. Daniel Berger, listen, at some point, the putts are going to start to drop. He, in my opinion, has the most talent by far in this range. And his approach game has actually been solid, and he finished 3rd here a couple years ago. Taylor Montgomery is the 2nd best player in this field in weak fields. Another guy who can fill it up on the greens, which is what you need in the putting contest. And I will conclude the 7K range. Matty Schmidt is a guy who's been on a pretty consistent run. When you look at, a guy who can get there off the tee, his approach play and his putting have been improving. And so I like what he's doing. And at 7-2, I think he has some upside there.
Love the majority of those names, Ron. I think they're all right in play for me. Outside of Daniel Berger, I'm still in wait-and-see mode there. But at the same time, you're not necessarily going to have to find too much of him in your lineups to get exposure. I don't mind a little bit of Chan Kim as well while we're in this range. Some Kevin Yu. I've actually bet Kevin Yu for a top 10. He's doing that 17% of his starts. He's top 10ing as often as he top 20s. That's Kevin Yu for you. I mean, he's the definition of boom or bust. So I love having him in my player pool. Gary Kigo will be in there too, with a little bit of CT Pan, Alejandro Tosti, and Ryan Palmer as we make our ways into the sixes, which is capped off by Sammy Valimaki at $7,000, by the way. I like Sammy. If Jake Knapp translates to this golf course, why not Sammy, right? The guy that finished 2nd to him or 3rd or whatever. So we don't mind him at all. I don't mind a Dylan Wu either. Seems to have been playing some solid golf of late. I don't know how he'll do in a birdie festival. Seems though he's in about the 45th ranking there for easy scoring for me. But $6,700, he's been playing some solid golf. I like him as a safe option down here. Rico Hoey, another guy that's really, really just been striking the crap out of the golf ball, Ron. And then I will kind of hand off the baton to you by giving you some Patrick Fishburne and my guy, Jorge Campillo. And there's one more guy called Rafael Campos. These DP Tour, Corn Ferry guys, I'm liking them this week. This is the most Corn Ferry-esque kind of event we've had in a while, and a lot of them are playing. So let's see what they can get up to. I'm a big fan of those names.
Yeah, and I think I can't pass without mentioning Ben Martin sitting there at 7K too. Again, like I said, he's second in this entire field when you look over the last 3 months approach plus putting. And yeah, I think with your Corn Ferry take, Chandler Phillips sitting there at 6.9. A guy who we've seen, kind of week in and week out, even last week, in the team competition, just really lighting it up. 9th best in approach, 21st best putter. So I think he has a lot of upside. I think he easily could have been priced, 7.5, even higher than that a little bit. I think Matt Wallace, a guy who can get really hot on the greens. His approach play has been made a lot of improvements recently. A guy who just really bad off the tee. But again, you're not going to need much this week because the rough has not proven to be penal yet, even though it is Bermuda and they have had a lot of rain. And so I'm kind of anxious to see, if the Bermuda is a little longer this week. But yeah, you got a guy like a Hayden Springer, another Corn Ferry guy sitting there at 6.7 who has shown some upside, can get really hot on the greens. Agree with you on Dylan Wu. He's a guy who kind of had his struggles and then kind of bouncing back here recently. And then yeah, I'm gonna be pretty heavy in that low 7K range, and so there is not a lot that interests me other than maybe a Kevin Doherty at 6.4. He's a guy who really good from 200 plus and has been decent on the greens. So yeah, my strategy this week is going to be mostly in that 9K and then kind of loading up and mixing and matching in that 7K range. And again, this is a great week to play a lot of guys at 5% because this is definitely a week a long shot could come through.
Absolutely, Ron. I think that's the case. I'll pretty much, like you, be staying the most part away from the 6K range, not playing too many lineups this week. For some reason, I'm in the mood to kind of go single entry and kind of focusing on some showdown a bit more this week. So that's my game plan. The weather is like all up in the air. We'll have to wait and check it tonight, last minute, before you kind of submit your lineups. It's 4 days of all sorts of stuff, Ron. We've got some calm ass days. We've got some days that it's going to be Texas blowing. So it's going to be a fun week of golf. Anything else you're in the mood to share with the people as we kind of get out of here?
Yeah, I agree with you on the showdown. I think this is a great week for showdown because you got so many different guys that could go off, and you target upside on those days. And I think you could have a good week in showdown as well. We just got the same stuff here. Rabbit hole. We're going to be adding stuff here in the next month or so. So keep checking that. And we got some more stuff coming out on the site today. DFS article, and a lot of these things we're talking about will be in that article, and I'll kind of have my core plays in there as well. So, looking forward to next week as we get into the Wells Fargo and signature event, and obviously PGA Championship rapidly approaching.
I know. You know what's kind of crazy to think about is that Will Zalatoris was likely going to play 6 or 7 tournaments. I think his 6th tournament would have been the PGA Championship, which is kind of crazy. So, and did I see a promo code out there for BetSperts this week?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot. A free week. So, yes, you can actually test the site for free. Rabbit hole, pretty much everything included if you want to get a free week there. And, that's that code again is free week at betspertsgolf.com.
Let's go. Let's have a great week during the free week over here at betspertsgolf.com. This is the Byron Show for the Byron Nelson. It's one of Ron and I's favorite shows to do together because this is the goddamn Byron Show. So till next week for the Wells Fargo Championship, folks, don't forget to pivot your face off.